Skull Rock Podcast is brought to you by the generosity of the following companies. The Old Mill Press, publishing beautifully crafted books that illuminate our world. To learn more, visit theoldmillpress.com. And by listeners like you.
This is Ed Vodica, and you're listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Skull Rock Podcast, where you hear the stories behind the adventures. With your hosts, Aljon Go and Dave Bossert.
Welcome to Skull Rock Podcast. And yes, we take you behind the curtain of all things Disney and pop culture and your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming, what's in theaters, and what's going on in this multiverse of entertainment. I'm Aljon Go, and I'm a musician, a longtime Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, and pop culturist podcaster. I can't even say that 10 times straight. And you can email me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert. Heidi ho. I'm an artist, a filmmaker, and an author, and welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. And also, I want to let you guys know we're on YouTube.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So how you doing, Aljon?
I'm doing great, Dave. It's a busy week. I know that you've been busy, and I just came back from a little bit of a trade show / consumer show up there at Sweetwater, talking about guitars and artist guitars and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it's been crazy busy. There's so much to unpack. You know, D23 was this past weekend. They made a lot of great announcements. We've got part one of our interview with Emmy-winning story artist Ken Bruce.
Yes.
And his book on the Tiki Room.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait. The book is fantastic, by the way. And not only that, we've got hundreds of people who have already signed up for the books we're going to give away next week. Yes. I mean, come on.
Yes. A quick reminder, a little housekeeping for everybody. So we have this new YouTube page that opened up a couple of weeks ago, kind of under the radar, and we started talking about it for yesterday, for our last week rather, for our 200th episode. Now this is 201. We're over the hump, Dave.
We are over the hump.
And we are registering people to sign up and follow us on all of our socials, subscribe to our YouTube page. And for those people that are signing up, Dave has graciously given away, or will be giving away, 5 of his brand new books, or 5 copies of his brand new book, I should say, which is Find Your Happy Place, the 8-step guide to boosting your creativity through a personal retreat. It's not even out yet, but if you live in the United States, you can get yourself a physical copy or get a digital copy or an Audible download, and which is great because we are a global phenomenon, Dave. We are a global show.
Hey, I'm telling you, we've got listeners on every continent.
That's right. For everyone that's out there, if you don't live in the United States, we can certainly accommodate. And Dave has graciously put up some digital copies of the book and audio books for you. I can't wait. It's going to be great. Dave, when is the book exactly coming out?
The book officially releases on September 10th.
Okay.
But there are advance copies that have gone out to people who pre-ordered them.
There you go.
So those are out in the world floating around. And, I'm happy to give away 5 more copies, in the next few weeks, because that's what we do here. We take care of our listeners.
Yes, absolutely. And that's gracious of you, Dave. And looking forward to the new book and looking forward to seeing the people that are signing up. I can see, YouTube low key is doing great for us. People are finding the show. So once again, if you haven't yet, please subscribe on every podcast platform. Leave us comments on YouTube, subscribe, and click that bell for notifications every time you do that over there on YouTube. We certainly will appreciate it, and you get notified every time we put out new content, which is exciting. Dave, what else can I say, man?
No, something, it's been a busy time, and we're into the dog days of summer. You know, kids are going to be going back to school soon. Honestly, Aljon, Labor Day is going to be here before we know it, and we're going to be into the fall. I got a heavy travel schedule. We should let our listeners know we're still dropping shows every single week. We may be doing our abbreviated shows where we don't do a lot of chatter and we just drop the interview because both you and I are going to be on the road.
Yes, we are. It's going to be a busy, busy time, but it's going to be a good time for our listeners because we'll keep that flow going. So that's really cool. I tell you what, we do have some comments before we get into our reviews and picks of the week, Dave, and of course the big D23 news. So why don't we do it?
Skull Rock Podcast answers your email.
So we've got some comments over the old Facebook and YouTube here. This is from Paul329869. Boy, that is an interesting name. He goes, say, Dave and friend Mark, great job on your podcast for the first 3 parts of that interview, but I think you could get into film collecting. I'd like to get into film collecting. There's got to be some great old black and white color, silent sound, and cartoons, domestically and foreign. I feel that though it may be a risky business, physically and financially, it's worth it. I'll take my eBay and Craigslist findings of the oldest cartoon films from Lance or anyone else from that day. Toodles. So, I guess he's interested in the Mark Hausler interview about the film collecting and classic animation, referring to that. So, well, good luck to you, Paul, and collecting.
You know, I will comment and say that, film collecting is really, it's one of those specialty hobbies that, requires a little detective work and a little patience as well as perseverance in trying to find those titles, but especially some of the scarce titles, but they're out there, and the more people that start looking for them, the more quote lost cartoons and films are going to start to surface. And just a year and a half ago, a piece of Neck and Neck surfaced, an Oswald cartoon, Neck and Neck, surfaced in Japan, and it was titled under what was called Speedy Mickey. So it didn't have an Oswald title to it. So that's what you have to deal with some of these films from the 20s and 30s, is that they got chopped up. They had different titles put on them. Some regional titles were added on to some of these cartoons. So it's really about sort of looking for them, not as quote an Oswald cartoon or an Alice cartoon, but or a Felix or whatever you're looking for. It's looking for these films and actually checking the films. There was an Oswald cartoon at an archive that was labeled a Felix the Cat cartoon. And it wasn't, obviously. So we were able to uncover that years ago. So more power to you. If you're going to do it, go for it.
Absolutely. And by the way, we are talking to the authority on Oswald cartoons here with Dave. So keep that in mind. Remember, he is the authority. So we have here another comment from Porta Kanuki, who says, wonderful to see you on YouTube. The show is an absolute pleasure discovering all your previous episodes. Hey, look, I appreciate that. I'm glad you dig it. Let's see here. We have another one here from KB Art. And this is from our Ron Clements interview, our 5-part series. As an alumni of the Disney Florida studio from 1995 to 2003, I'm finding all the deep dives and behind the scenes insights of that era absolutely fascinating. Thanks for sharing, Ron. Very good.
Hey, something that's what we're doing here. We are doing an oral history of animation, and especially during the Disney Renaissance.
Yes.
And we're putting it online for anybody, for researchers, for people who are interested in it. And, people that are just getting in the business, you can learn
Skull Rock
from
Podcast.
these veterans.
Oh, absolutely. That's great. Sorry. I had
You're just hitting buttons.
I just hit the button for the podcast because it's like KB Art also says love the podcast. Yes, that's
awesome.
Right.
Awesome.
Extra comments.
We love getting these comments.
Absolutely. Hey, if you've got a comment, feel free to just once again log on and subscribe to our YouTube page. You can hit us up over Facebook, which is great. Of course, we're on all the other social media, and you can also send us those emails to Aljon or Dave at skullrockpodcast.com, and we'll read your email or your review. If you give us those 5-star reviews, we would certainly appreciate it in a future episode. And I'm trying to make sure I get this. There we go. And now it's our picks of the week. And Dave, I know you've been busy, but what have you been streaming, watching in the theater? What can you tell us?
I went to see Borderlands, which tanked this opening weekend.
Oh my goodness gracious
and
me.
I will tell you, I went in with low expectations, but let me just let our listeners know Borderlands is an action sci-fi movie. I saw it in IMAX. Returning to her home planet Pandora, an infamous bounty hunter forms an unexpected alliance with a ragtag team of misfits. Together, they battle alien monsters and dangerous bandits to uncover one of Pandora's most explosive secrets. So I will say that there was a lot of exceptional talent in this film. The lead is Cate Blanchett, who plays Lilith, along with Kevin Hart, who plays Roland. You've got Jamie Lee Curtis, Gina Gershon, Haley Bennett. Jack Black is fabulous, voicing a robot named Claptrap. And Edgar Ramirez is Atlas, the villain. And, it's got a great cast, and they only could do what they could do with a crappy script.
Oh my.
The dialogue was awful in some of the scenes, and the respite on this, the saving grace, if you will, was Jack Black voicing this robot, which is absolutely hilarious. He's got some great lines. I mean, some lines where you burst out laughing. But generally, the performances couldn't save this movie. And also the other thing that bothered me, there was some shots in this film that absolutely looked like they were green screen shot on a stage. It was odd. I looked at some of these shots and I thought they couldn't have done better with the technology that they have, and what you see in other films. Anyway, it's gotten 10% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 4.4 on IMDb.
Oh boy.
And 27% on Metacritic. 32% like this movie. I will tell you folks, if you're going to see this movie, just wait for it to come on a streaming service. It's not worth spending the money. I always feel violated coming out of the IMAX theater because I paid extra to see the movie in IMAX. So when you see a bad movie in IMAX, you feel like you've been ripped off,
Well, and it's really weird because it's directed by Eli Roth, and Joe Abercrombie had done the screenplay for it. I had high expectations of this film just based on the people working on it and the cast.
Yeah.
But, this is based also on a video game. I know our fans are going to call us out on it if we don't say, hey, look, it's based on a video game. It's an adaptation of the video game of the same name, which I enjoy, being like a post-apocalyptic kind of, film. Yeah. But man, that sucks.
Yes, it's based on Borderlands by Gearbox Software.
Yes.
How's that?
Very good, Dave. Very good. I had a friend that worked at Gearbox, and he worked there for many years, and it's just a great video game. The experience, it's an award-winning video game, but it sucks that the movie did not deliver, and that's a shame. especially
Yeah.
with Eli Roth attached to it, because I have high expectations. I am an Eli Roth fanboy. So
Yeah, no, he's done some amazing movies.
yeah, and this was like one of those big budget films, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
He did great. Thanksgiving came out, maybe 2 years ago.
Where
as
there'll
a
be
horror
no
movie.
leftovers.
That's right, no
That
leftovers.
was the tagline.
Yeah, and then of course you have this. So okay, all right, Dave. What else are we watching?
All right. So then I did watch a movie that dropped on Apple Plus called The Instigators with Matt Damon and Casey Affleck.
Okay.
They play Rory and Kobe, are unlikely partners thrown together for a heist. However, when it goes awry, they team up to outrun police, backward bureaucrats, and a vengeful crime boss. Directed by Doug Liman, another good director. This film was fun. It was just a fun film. There were funny moments to it. It's billed as a thriller comedy. It's got a great cast. Paul Walter Hauser is in it. You may remember him as Stingray in Cobra Kai.
That's right.
As well as a bunch of other films. He's an actor to watch. I think he's really really great. Ving Rhames is in this, Ron Perlman, Michael Stuhlbarg, Alfred Molina, Toby Jones. I mean, it's an all-star cast of people. And it's worth seeing. If you have Apple Plus, check it out. It's a fun movie. It's not very long. I think what is the running time on this? I can't find it. It's not a very long movie though.
Okay.
It was less than 2 hours.
Okay.
But good film. I enjoyed it. I finished watching season 3 of Mayor of Kingstown, which is just an excellent show. I really enjoy it. Jeremy Renner stars as Mike McCluskey. Hugh Dillon is Ian, who plays a police detective. Diane Wiest was in some of the earlier seasons of the film. It's just a very gritty cop drama, thriller drama. So I would highly recommend it. It's available on Paramount Plus, and I think you can get it now on Hulu, Tubi. Let me see, not Tubi, Amazon Prime. Most of the platforms, Sling TV has it. So you should be able to catch it. It's very well done. And finally, I spoke about this because I watched one episode, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder on Netflix.
Yes.
Pip, a brilliant woman, is unsure whether schoolgirl Addie Bell was killed by her lover, Sal Singh, 5 years ago. They must see how far they will go to protect Pip from learning the truth if Sal Singh turns out not to be the murderer. Well, I finished watching this. It was a limited series. There were 6 episodes. It was fantastic.
Oh, good.
Lots of twists and turns. Emma Myers plays Pip. And it really is a very well done whodunit drama, murder mystery. And it all comes together in the final episode, and they leave you hanging for hopefully another season, which I hope there is. Nice. So check out A Good Girl's Guide to Murder on Netflix. Aljon, what have you been watching?
Well, because of my busy week being on the road, I was able, though, to catch a great documentary. And this is for all the fans of the Brat Pack, and it's called Brats. And I know that it's the big slang term right now.
Not to be confused with brats.
No, but I do like brats. But yes, it is Brats, and it is about the Brat Pack, of course. And so this documentary is on Hulu, so you can check it out there. And it is all about you see, I had it all lined up here, and I totally lost my page here. But here it is.
But it's all about that period of the Brat Pack films, like
Exactly.
St. Elmo's Fire, 16
Club.
Candles, right? All of those films. Pretty in Pink.
Yes, it centers on the 80s film starring the Brat Pack and their profound impact on the young stars' lives. In this, of course, we've got Andrew McCarthy, who is the actor / the filmmaker who did this documentary. Of course, he's a really great director now. Emilio Estevez is in it, Ali Sheedy, John Cryer. We've got a bunch of different filmmakers and critics in here. Leah Thompson kind of guests in it. Timothy Hutton, Demi Moore, which is great. We've got Rob Lowe, Kevin Bacon's in there briefly, Matthew Broderick. There's some stuff, some archival footage and interviews with John Cusack, Matt Dillon, Robert Downey, Michael J. Fox, Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, Sean Penn, Molly Ringwald. I mean, it is the entire list. So let me ask you, the big question about this is, who is in the Brat Pack? Who is in the Brat Pack? I know who I would put in the Brat Pack.
Well, yeah, but who is legit the Brat Pack from that period?
Oh, I think for sure it all surrounds Emilio Estevez. And because Emilio was the subject of that interview, I believe it was in Rolling Stone magazine or the New Yorker, where the writer coined the term Brat Pack and wanted to basically give marketing shorthand to these actors who were in all of these type of John Hughes films. And I say John Hughes, but it was more than that. I mean, people can say that Fast Times at Richmond High, which is actually earlier, pre-Brat Pack, was part of that, or Valley Girl, or of course, I think the quintessential John Hughes movie, The Breakfast Club. If you're in The Breakfast Club, you're in the Brat Pack.
And that was like Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, Andrew McCarthy. Who else was in it?
Anthony Michael Hall.
Anthony Michael Hall. Yeah. There's Emilio Estevez. Was he in that film?
Yep, he was in it. He was in it, and I think St. Elmo's Fire is one of those films as well.
Rob Lowe is another one from that period.
But you could also say The Outsiders, and in The Outsiders, you had people like Patrick Swayze, and Patrick Swayze was in another movie with a fellow Brat Packer called Ghost, and they broke free from it. I think. People like
Matt Dillon.
Matt Dillon was in it. Ralph Macchio was in it. There were so many people that were in these films, and they actually asked John Cryer, who was who played Ducky in Pretty in Pink with Andrew McCarthy and Molly Ringwald and James Spader, and you would go, "Are you in the Brat Pack?" And John said, "No, I'm not in the Brat Pack." He wanted to be in the Brat Pack, but the thing is, the term Brat Pack, I think a lot of those actors that were in that had their career kind of stunted. I think there's a lot of resentment toward that, and it kind of halted and stunted their career in many ways. Ali Sheedy went on to do some things, and Molly Ringwald went on to do some things. Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe broke out of it. Robert Downey Jr. could have been associated with it, but he broke out of it. I would say that Matthew Broderick could have been considered part of it because of his ties to John Hughes movies and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He broke out of it, So I think some of those core people definitely got put into that pigeonhole in there, because I think Andrew McCarthy and Emilio Estevez were signed on to do a movie, and Emilio said no because it was with Andrew, and they cleared the air in this sit down interview, and he apologized, but he didn't want anything to do with it because he thought there was a negative connotation that they couldn't get these other roles in other films because people like Steven Spielberg wouldn't even sit with them. Or wouldn't their casting people wouldn't even sit with them because they thought that they didn't take the craft of acting seriously. I think that was part of the portrayal of the Brat Pack, and I think it hurt a lot of their careers as a result. It's a fascinating look. There was some really great interview scenes with Emilio Estevez and Demi Moore and John Cryer and Leah Thompson and those critics. And there's also some interesting discussion there about how those 80s movies were produced and how maybe they get under fire today, in this day and age, as we speak in 2024, about not being diverse enough. And I like to call the flag on that, because I think that these filmmakers and writers were writing what they knew, and they're being authentic to themselves. And I think that's what real stories are all about. It's about authenticity. And if they were to make them today, it might be a different story, because I think there are ways that you can do certain things. And I think a lot of schools and different things have a lot more culture in them these days, maybe. But you can't be disingenuous and put in, a bunch of actors that you didn't experience. I mean, would that be disingenuous, Dave? Am I wrong here in saying that?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're doing a documentary on the Brat Pack, you got to and I think the Brat Pack was a loose term. There were people that were on the fringes of the Brat Pack. And like John Cryer, he didn't think he was part of the Brat Pack. Well, he was part of the fringe of the Brat Pack era.
Or Patrick Swayze.
Or Patrick Swayze, who broke out anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it does feel like some of them were just bitter about the fact that they were cast as the Brat Pack.
It's absolutely. I think there is that bitterness, and I think that being labeled like that, they believe that it was negative, and they still feel about it this day. But I think Demi Moore had mentioned to Andrew, why couldn't we just use it to empower us instead and prove those critics wrong? Why did we have to carry this for 30, 35 years in our, in our heart and have some of it, dictate how we lived our lives and what kind of projects we pursued, and I think she's absolutely right. I mean, when I was growing up, I loved the Brat Pack films, and I still love them. I think the Breakfast Club is still one of my favorite coming of age movies, and I didn't think it was a bad term, a derisive term at all. I think I thought it was just a group of Hollywood actors that hung out together all the time.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, and I think that most of them have done very, very well. But some of them, somebody like Judd Nelson, he's kind of disappeared, after 21, 22. He hasn't really done much in the last few years. But, he wound up doing a lot of TV stuff after doing all those movies.
Yeah. And, so many of these actors like Anthony Michael Hall came back and are doing so many great things. James Spader came back and is doing great things, so there's.
James Spader's had a fantastic career.
Absolutely.
He's had every season, every series he's done has gone on, has lasted for a long time. He played the lawyer with, what's his name? Shatner, William Shatner.
Yeah. Boston Legal.
Yeah, Boston Legal. Yeah. That was a great show. And then he did The Blacklist. That was on for whatever 6 or 8 seasons.
It's insane.
10 years. It feels like it.
Yeah, it feels like it.
So I mean, they've had great careers.
Oh, absolutely. And John Cusack has had a great career. Hell, Tom Cruise, people wanted to put him in there as well. Of course, he's broken out. Kevin Bacon, the same thing. So I mean, I think there is a certain core of actors, I think, that are certainly bitter. Maybe Molly Ringwald is in with that because she didn't participate in this. But all I have to say is, look, your fans are out there. They love you. They want to support you. And whether you do a Comic-Con or some kind of nostalgia con or what have you, they want to come out and support you. And yes, you did influence us as people growing up and made some great films. I hope that you don't deny yourself of the love and adulation that your fans have for your projects. It's like being a Star Trek actor. You can say that, get a life, as William Shatner famously said, but he's gracious with his fans, and the fans are what brought you to the dance. All I can say is that if you're a fan of those genre films back in the 80s, you'll love Bratz, and congratulations to Andrew McCarthy for putting together a pretty nice look at the Where Are They Now and how this affected them. So
yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
It's fun. It's an easy watch.
It's good.
All right. So if you have something you want for us to review, let us know, and we'll check it out in a future episode.
Skull Rock Podcast, ripped from the headlines. It's Skull Rock Podcast headline news.
Before we get into the D23 Expo news, I just wanted to say that it's a happy time at Ryan Reynolds' house because Blake Lively's new movie, It Ends With Us, beats Deadpool and Wolverine on Friday, according to The Hollywood Reporter. I'm a fan of Blake Lively. I think she's awesome. And Brian has got to be happy for her because this brand new female-empowered It Ends With Us movie is produced by Lively. It topped the rating champ Deadpool and Wolverine on Friday with a stellar $24 million, including $11 million in previews. Of course, Disney's Deadpool is still crushing it as it took on another $15.5 million on its third Friday. And it looks like it's already going to be a $1 billion movie worldwide, Dave. That's insane.
Of course it's going to be $1 billion movie. It's going to climb well above $1 billion. It's a fun movie, and people are going to go back and see it again and again.
That's awesome. Box office is back, guys. That's all I have to say. And congratulations, Marvel and Disney. You did it. Speaking of Disney, it is the D23 Expo, Dave, and there are huge announcements. I have to say that I was happy to see a lot of the announcements and a lot of the streaming footage from the D23 Expo. We have a lot of announcements from the parks and the movies, but let's just go ahead and I'm going to give you some of the headlines from some of these, Dave. Let's go with the park. So Josh Tomorrow did a nice little TED Talk there, a little panel where they talk about the parks, and it looks like that they're going to be doing the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. It's going to be hitting theaters in 2026, and it's going to be coming to Galaxy's Edge over there at the parks. So you're going to see the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run with Mandalorian and Grogu giving a brand new spin on that experience, Dave. I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. I am too.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be fabulous.
Exactly. Josh Tomorrow says, at Disney Experiences and the Imagineer's dream, they are to create and build these stories into real places. And we have Imagineers in place right now all around the world, because everything we're doing is going to be sharing this awesome active development. Plans are drawn, dirt is moving. I want to be clear about this. We're doing everything you're going to hear tonight. So this is good. This is not just vaporware. They're actually going to be doing it. How about this, Dave? Disney villains are going to Magic Kingdom with a brand new land. And I think this is a long time coming. We've heard it teased over the D23 Expo in years past, but they're doing a villains land over at Disney. It's coming to Walt Disney World, and it looks like be prepared, your poor unfortunate souls. It's going to be a fearless new vision for what Disney experiences can be. If you felt a shiver down your spine, it's because preparation is ready and underway at Magic Kingdom. So you're going to have all kinds of villains from the likes of every Disney franchise, including the Evil Queen, Ursula, Scar. There's going to be a lot of villains here. And I don't know where they're going to put this, Dave. It looks very interesting.
You know what, though? They've got so much land down at the Florida park. Of course, they're going to be able to build off of that.
It looks amazing. They also are going to be updating Avatar as well at California Adventure. So that is just a quick thing that they're going to be doing there. They've got a new adventure, I guess, with Pandora that is going to be dynamic. So it's going to be ever changing. And I believe they're going to be doing this on the Navi River, which is going to be great. So I guess they're going to be doing some kind of update there. They're doing a Coco ride.
At California Adventure.
Yeah, so they're doing Coco, which is going to be great. His performances at Horizons, Disney Experiences.
And the thing about Coco, I think, you could do a really fabulous, almost dark ride with all the, day-glow paint.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think that'd be a lot of fun if they do something like that.
Well, it looks like they're going to do it. It's going to be another one of those dark ride adventures. So I'm getting ready for Coco. That looks really cool.
Awesome.
And then the main event, the Lion King ride, is being announced, and it looks like it's going to be happening over there at where is it?
Paris.
Paris Disney, which is going to be happening. It's going to be renamed Disney Adventure World, Dave. That's a new one.
The Paris Studio Tour.
The Paris Studio Tour, yeah, and it looks
and also we can't forget they're putting in Marvel. The whole Marvel land.
Absolutely, they're doing that too. So it's going to be great. It looks like they're going to be retheming a current attraction there for the Lion King ride. Looks like a flume ride, which is Very cool.
Yeah.
And then they have a brand new Walt Disney audio animatronic figure coming to Disneyland. What do you think about this, being a big Walt Disney guy, of course?
Hey, you know what? It was inevitable. The technology is there. Why not and again, do it super well.
Yeah.
You have to do it really spot on, really well.
I think it makes sense.
Yes.
To hear from, Walt Disney, there's archival footage and stuff they can clean up. And of course, audio animatronics have come such a long way. It's called Walt Disney: A Magical Life, will debut inside the Main Street Opera House after its initial run. The attraction will play into rotation with great moments with Mr. Lincoln, which it talks about the advances in audio animatronics, and this groundbreaking technology, which is going to be great. So I'm excited about that. And by the looks of it, it looks great because you're back at Walt's studio where they shot The Wonderful World of Disney. So you get to see that set recreated, which is awesome.
I think it's great. I don't know if they're going to have the audio animatronic coughing and smoking, but if they don't, it's okay. As long as they have a spot on Walt Disney. I mean, it really has to be spot on. And with the AI technology, they should be able to generate a soundtrack that is Walt from all of the recordings they have of him.
Certainly, and they probably will double that with a voice actor that sounds like Walt as well. They do that. Let's see here. Just really quick, they're lightning fast. Indiana Jones and Encanto confirmed for Animal Kingdom. Dave, it's got the new adventure awaits Animal Kingdom with the addition of a new space themed in tropical Americas. Welcome to Pueblo Esperanza. This doesn't come to a big surprise to all of us that have been following this news. Indiana Jones has got an experience arriving at Animal Kingdom. It's going to be different from anything ever made. That looks interesting as well. It looks like it's got perfectly preserved Maya temple that Indiana Jones is going to explore. There's a creature hidden deep within it. So that looks really cool. And of course, Encanto looks like an amazing adventure as well. What else can I say about that? Zootopia, they're going to be doing.
Aljon, there was no mention of any kind of Wish attraction.
Oh, Dave, come on, man. Well, I take that back. There isn't a Wish attraction, but they did in the Disney Villains trailer. They did put the king in there. I forgot his name. You see, that's how bad it is.
King Magnifico? In the villain. Oh, come on. Give me a break.
Put Magnifico in the villain's land. Yes.
Oh, good God.
Tiana's Bayou Adventure opens this holiday season at Disneyland. Of course, we've got that over there at Walt Disney World. Reimagined Test Track opens in 2025. A new fresh coat of paint for that. Monsters Inc. Land announced for Hollywood Studios, which is going to be a brand new hanging attraction, which we've been speculating. They've been working on this kind of hanging attraction now for almost 20 years, Dave, it seems. But it's finally going to come to fruition. The concept art looks amazing.
But when you say hanging, you're talking about the ride vehicles hanging from a track, right?
Oh, yeah. It looks like there's they're hanging from a track. You're suspended. So there is no, you're hanging over it. And it looks like you're being sat in a 2x2 kind of conveyance, and you're going to be swinging. So you're going to have like some 3D movement access. So we're going to be rotating around and moving back and forth, hanging from canisters that are powered by children's laughter. So, or their scares, whatever. But
I think it's fantastic, and when they break ground with doing new attractions, they're bringing in the latest technology, and they always do it so well, and I can't wait for some of this. And by the way, all these things you're rattling off, this is part of that 10-year, $60 billion investment into the parks, and it's so great to see them sprinkling this stuff all across the park system.
I want to ask you about this, Dave. A new Cars attraction is racing into Magic Kingdom. Dave, they're putting Cars. Lightning McQueen and Tow Mater are coming to the Magic Kingdom. But guess where they're going to be, Dave?
They're going to be in Frontierland.
They're going to be in Frontierland. What's happening, Dave?
Well, something, look, I think that, the lands get periodically refreshed and new things have to be added to them. I mean, you look at Frontierland at Disneyland and they had, Nature's Half Acre and, the Rainbow Caverns, and that got replaced with, Big Thunder Mountain. So I think, they have to do this kind of stuff as long as they're leaving the iconic attractions, Pirates and Small World and Haunted Mansion. And even with, some of those, as they go out into other parks, they're reconfiguring those. They're doing things differently. I wish, by the way, that they would go into Pirates of the Caribbean at the Magic Kingdom in Orlando and make it longer and larger like the one in California.
God, I wish they would do that too.
That's the refresh they should do for Pirates in Florida.
Right on. I agree. Yeah, but then you're going to be out for 6 months on that attraction or longer. It'll
be worth it, though. It'll be worth it.
It would be. All right. Disney Cruise Line announces 4 new cruise ships, Dave, which means, are they going to be giving you the call, Dave? Are you going to come back and do some more stuff for Cruise Line?
So I have no idea, but the thing I will tell you, I doubt it, by the way, but I do feel as though they, with all of this stuff, I think they're trying to rebuild Imagineering, because I know a lot of people who had retired are actually coming out of retirement because, these are highly specialized areas that they need to bring in experienced people, to do these things. And, with the amount of expansion that they're doing, they would be smart to tap into those seasoned individuals who have, took packages years ago and, quote, retired or moved on to other things. I mean, Joe Rohde's come back.
He's come back. I thought he was just coming back for a spell. No, seemingly he's coming back for his round 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wouldn't be surprised if people like Jason Searle, right? I mean, there's people that have left and gone on to work at Universal, and people that gone off and retired. And, you know, I mean, I know that they let a lot of people go, especially during that era, where, anyway, during the pandemic, and they're kind of restructuring, thinking they can.
Yeah, but even before the pandemic, they scaled down once Shanghai Disneyland opened.
Yeah.
They targeted a whole lot of very experienced people and said, here's a package. If you take it, great. You leave and, that's it. If you don't take it, there's a chance you'll get laid off, Well, and so a lot of people took those packages, some of them begrudgingly, because they didn't really want to retire because they enjoyed what they were doing. And again, Aljon, here's the thing I'll tell you. Ageism is rampant in the entertainment industry, right? But at some point, people have to go, wait a second, we should have these experienced people back here doing some of this stuff because we're ultimately going to save a boatload of money.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of waste going on with inexperienced people, tripping up and having problems because they don't have the experience in doing some of this stuff,
That's right. Innovation, you got to pass on and learn and build a bench so that you can leave a legacy behind of people that know what they're doing.
Exactly.
What's your exit strategy? So anyway, Dave, I'm just curious if they're going to give you a call because, you and Joe Lancicero were integral at getting some of those really cool interactive attractions over there for the cruise line. So I'd love to see that.
Hey, listen, again, I have no idea what the future holds. I never bother thinking about it. I just take it one day at a time. And the thing I will say is that this is just so amazing, some of this stuff that they announced during the D23 weekend. It really is fantastic, including all of these trailers that dropped.
I was going to say, Dave, so here we are. Did you see this Mufasa the Lion King trailer?
Yes.
Did you see it? Okay.
Yes, I did.
I thought it
I
looked
watched.
great.
I watched all of these trailers as they were dropping.
I think it looks great. Okay, so Barry Jenkins welcomed Lin-Manuel Miranda to the very first D23, of course, writing a new song for Mufasa, The Lion King, which looks great. Of course, this is the prequel to The Lion King, where you look at the relationship between an orphan named Mufasa and the adopted brother who would later be named Scar. And wow, this looks really cool. The other thing that looks really great, Dave, and you sent me this, I'm a huge fan of Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
And they burn the laser logo of Nine Inch Nails and Tron Ares. Oh my gosh, it's so great. I'm such a huge Tron fan. I love the Tron universe ever since the very first film and the animation and the film sequels that went after it. But it looks like Jared Leto, who made an appearance, Evan Peters, of course, you know him from playing Quicksilver in the X-Men films. Greta Lee showed off a nice trailer for the brand new Tron Ares, and we've got Daft Punk and Nine Inch Nails who are going to be coming back, doing some awesome music for it. So who knows? This looks to be a really big one, and I can't wait for it. Dave, we've talked about Snow White, and the live action version of Snow White has undergone reshoot after reshoot.
And rightfully so, by the way, because when they released those production stills of the initial version of it, it was, I mean, there was a collective, cry of, oh my God, what are they doing here?
Yeah, I had no intention on seeing it. Now I might see it, but I want people to understand, like, the trailer looks great and everything. If I didn't know the makings and how the sausage is being made in Hollywood, I would be all about it. But let me tell you something. Film studios, stop blaming the consumers for their opinions on what they see, because you put it out there, it's going to get loved, it's going to be hated, and just get over it. But stop blaming the consumers, because that just turns people off. It turns people off.
Aljon, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is a crown jewel.
Yes.
For the Walt Disney Company.
Yep.
Okay. It was the first animated feature film.
Yes.
That broke box office records when it was released.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it changed the face of animation. And you have to handle that property, I think, with a lot of care.
100%.
So when they first went down the road of doing a live action version, in my mind, they should have stuck as close as possible to the original version that Walt had done, and not tried to inject all of this ridiculous, stuff into it. And they got so much blowback from those initial production stills that were released, that they've gone back and they've retooled it. They pushed the release date by a couple of years. Like you said, they've done reshoots and all kinds of stuff. When you look at this trailer, you go, okay, there might be some hope for this.
I hope so, because I feel like you. I feel like Snow White is one of my favorite Disney films of all time. And you're right. They need to handle it with some reverence, and they need to understand the expectations of the people wanting to see this. You don't have to stray far from the source material here, folks, to make a hit film. And I think that's why the live action Beauty and the Beast did so well, because you didn't stray far from it.
And the same with Jon Favreau's version of Lion King.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it was like frame by frame, and it was fine.
Yeah.
It made buttloads of cash.
Yep.
Agatha All Along, of course, from Marvel Studios, is also in there as well, and it looks great. Catherine Hahn.
It's a terrific trailer. Trailer.
Catherine Hahn can do no wrong with me, and it looks great. Daredevil Born Again, of course. Vincent D'Onofrio came in as Wilson Fisk. Charlie Cox reprising his role as Daredevil from the Netflix series. Karen Page, played by Deborah Ann Woll. Foggy Nelson by Eldon Henson. And John Bernthal as the Punisher. Man, what a great cast, and everybody went wild over it. Also, Ironheart, which character Riri Williams was kind of making her debut during Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Ryan Coogler, of course, director and screenwriter, took center stage to introduce the cast, and that show will be coming out here over the next year. Looking forward to that. They showed some more Fantastic Four and Captain America Brave New World footage. Of course, Captain America is coming out next year. One of 3 or 4 different Marvel films that are going to be coming out. I know they said that they were going to be limiting to maybe 2 films a year, but they're going to be doing like 3 or 4, including Sony films next year. And Fantastic Four looks amazing. And of course, Ryan Reynolds also, thanked everybody because of Deadpool, which was great. So Deadpool ended up crashing as well in there. And in Star Wars, Dave, you're going to be excited about the new season of Andor, because they're bringing the crew back, including Alan Tudyk playing my favorite droid K2SO, and of course Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, and Krennic with Ben Mendelsohn will be coming back as well. Dave, I think this was one of your favorite series on Disney Plus.
I really enjoyed this. I can't wait for it to come back. The only complaint I have is that they're waiting too long between seasons.
This is true. I
mean, I'm looking forward honestly, to it. I want the seasons to drop quicker.
Yeah, well, this is going to butt up right up against, Rogue One, which to me is one of the best Disney Star Wars films ever produced, pre or post Disney. It's fine. Also, The Mandalorian and Grogu, as I mentioned, not only they're coming to the Smugglers Run attraction at the parks, but they're also giving a little bit of a preview. Jon Favreau, of course, is making this Star Wars movie with Dave Filoni, of course, featuring the Mandalorian himself and the Baby Yoda Grogu. And that's going to be great. Can't wait for that. And I don't have the dates of some of these films. We can go into it as the weeks progress. But this is interesting. I saw this trailer for Skeleton Crew, and we've been talking about this. This is a TV series on Disney Plus that has been touted over the past couple of years since the investors meeting, with Jude Law as young characters get lost in a galaxy far, far away. It looks like Goonies for Star Wars, Dave. It looks like there's a little group of kids, and I looked at it and I was thinking, this is in suburbia with land speeders. It looks like Star Wars, but it looks like it looks like everyday life in Star Wars in the suburb. And I was thinking to myself, well, I guess that's what it could be like. It just kind of is weird to me, but seeing these kids get lost, and of course Jude Law is a Jedi, it looks very interesting to me.
I have to say, Aljon, I like the Star Wars films, but I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I see the movies when they come out. I enjoy them. I've enjoyed Andor. I've enjoyed, The Mandalorian. I enjoy these well-told stories. I watched this trailer and I was very intrigued. I thought, I want to watch this. Yeah. This looks very good. Yeah. So I can't wait for this to drop.
I think this is going to be a whole new demo for Star Wars fans, because it's very Stranger Things-esque. You have a bunch of kids with a mentor, and they get on an adventure. I'm okay with that. Let's do it. Yeah. They also previewed its animation slate too. They've got Frozen 3 coming up. They've got Zootopia 2, Incredibles 3, a brand new John Hamm, Bonnie Moynihan-led body swap movie about a beaver and a human who exchange bodies in hoppers. So it's kind of like Freaky Friday, which, by the way, they're doing another Freaky Friday. Freakier Friday.
Yes. Yeah.
Lindsay Lohan is back for that. And then Toy Story 5. Dave, I told you, I knew it. You probably already knew it as well. I knew they were going to do another Toy Story. I've been saying it here, shouting it from the rooftops. It looks like they're actually doing it. And Andrew Stanton is doing it. I can't believe it. I'm so happy about it.
Oh, well, something, I have high hopes for it with Andrew Stanton at the helm.
Exactly. I'm excited. He can do no wrong, in my opinion. He can do no wrong. They also look to do a spinoff for Inside Out, and then Avatar, Fire and Ash, which is also going to be coming out as the third Avatar film. Dave, that is a bunch of stuff happening. Not to mention Moana 2.
Look, it was the weekend of one announcement after another. It's fabulous. There's a lot of great stuff to look forward to. I think it's incredible. I'm excited about the parks expansions. I'm excited about all these films and TV shows. Look, I'm hoping that the stock gets a bounce at some point.
Oh, exactly. I hope so too. Yeah, just for your sake, right? For our sake, a little shareholder action. Last but not least, in some news, Animation Guild fires up members at renegotiations rally, quote, "We're going to win our industry back." Dave, this industry is facing layoffs. We report about it on a weekly basis, seemingly. And of course,
look, the industry's in a bit of a slump. It's very tight. I'm hearing it from a lot of people in the industry. The phones aren't ringing. There's not a lot of work out there. And the Animation Guild has, they held this sort of pre-negotiation rally a few days ago, and it was really to fire up their members because starting Monday through next Friday, they're going to be negotiating a new contract. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if by Friday they reach some sort of an agreement or they start to threaten a strike. But, it's tough times in the animation industry right now.
Oof. Well, I wish everyone luck. We will be continuing to follow this story as the weeks unfold. Right now, let's sit back and relax. It is time for our main event. Emmy-winning story artist Ken Bruce is back for part 1 of his sit-down conversation with us right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's do it.
Skull Rock Podcast is made possible by listeners like you. We want to thank Randall Lynch, Spencer Wright, Lindsay Sky-Fay, and Joshua Volkert. Please support our show for as little as 99 cents a month by clicking the link in our show notes. Thank you for listening.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, once again, we have another fantastic guest. We've got animation artist Ken Bruce joining us on the Skull Rock Podcast. Ken, welcome to the show.
I could not be more delighted to be here. Thank you, Dave.
Well, you know something, I'm going to let our audience in on a little something here because we're just going to interview you about your new book. But you know what? You've had a really pretty cool career. Emmys, winning Emmy awards and stuff like that. So I thought we'd spend this show talking about your animation career, and we'll tease the hell out of your book on the Tiki Room, and we'll talk about that next week. How's that sound?
That sounds absolutely great. I'm here for it all.
Okay, you want the full VIP experience.
Okay, if my career is that interesting, who knows? I guess people would find
your career is absolutely that interesting. But the one thing I always ask our guests who are in the animation industry, or actually any industry, how'd you get started? How did you come to decide you were going to go into animation?
You know, when I was a kid and saw Disney animation, my head just exploded. I couldn't explain it. There was something about Disney animation and Warner Brothers cartoons on the TV as well that just was magic. I could not explain it for the life of me, but I did know that I wanted to be a part of that. There was something so transporting about watching, moving images on the screen that were, hand drawn. So at a very early age, I think I was lucky. A lot of people have a problem trying to figure out what they're going to do with their life. But as early as age 7, I was like, I have to be a part of this. So there was no question that I wasn't going to do it. But, one of the things you did was you went to Cal Arts. You, Dave, went there as well. So I remember you.
You're a Cal Larson, as I like to say to our alumni.
And if you were a Disney animation fanatic, that was the place you went because that was the Disney founded art institute. So lucky for me, they had an animation program, a character animation program at the time, which they didn't always have, but they eventually had one come 1975. I was there, so I was so lucky to be able to have gotten in, and then boom, I'm making student films and getting into the industry.
Okay, but you just sort of went from 7 years old to Cal Arts.
There you go.
And so the gap in between, I'm interested in finding out from you. Like when you decided when you were 7 years old, I've got to do this. What did you do? Did you try to do your own animation? Were you drawing? Were you taking art classes? Did you go to the library? Were there books you got? I mean, tell us, like, how did you go from 7 years old to Cal Arts?
Good question. 7 years old to Cal Arts. So that would be, I was always scribbling and creating little cartoons, and people told me I was pretty good at it. And I did do a little bit of some animation work when I was, little animated slideshows and an animated little cartoon right before I went to Cal Arts. They were awful, but they still were, they were still, passion projects. Like, I just loved it. I just loved making these little cartoons. But, always drawing, always scribbling, always, when I was on the school paper, I was, one of the school cartoonist for a little while. So, yeah, always kind of trying to sell ideas through images.
And where did you grow up in California?
I did. I grew up in Palos Verdes, overlooking the ocean.
So you grew up in Palos Verdes.
Yeah.
Were there any like books or anything that you can remember from that period between 7 years old and Cal Arts that you?
The book, somewhat previous to Cal Arts that you just had to get was Christopher Finch's The Art of Walt Disney.
The Art of Walt Disney,
and it was an expensive book, so I had to plead with anybody and everybody that might be giving me, a little gift money to just pool it for that book. So yeah, that book was everything. And then right before Cal Arts, that's when Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston, the great two of the great 9 old men of Disney Studios, put out their book, which quickly became the Bible for all of us interested in animation. So those two books were amazing. There was another one, the critical book that Schickel wrote, called the Disney version, which was the book that no one closely associated with Walt wanted anything to do with, but it was a good book. It was actually
Schickel. He was a film critic.
Yeah, so he got a little snarky. Some of it he later sort of regretted. But that being said, it was a great intro to the non-mythy, non-magical side of the Disney Studios, which I appreciated because it sort of opened you up to reality in many ways. Yeah. So that was another book that I read, Bob Thomas's book, and so big Walt.
Did you have the Walter Foster, Preston Blair animation?
Oh, I had those, and I did my best to learn from them for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, the Walter Foster, Preston Blair animation book. It seems like every animation artist that we've had on this show, including myself, because I have my copy over on the bookshelf here.
There's two of them, like a blue one and a yellow one.
Yeah, but it seems like everyone had that book, which I think that Walter Foster deserves more credit for publishing that book and having Preston Blair create it. They
made it look so easy,
and I started
in on that. I'm like, are you kidding? I can't even begin to draw 1/100th as well and as fluid as these guys. Yeah. But I just, you keep hammering at it. So
sure. So you applied to Cal Arts, you got accepted.
Yeah.
And what year was that? What year did you go?
Gosh,
what year did you?
1982 was when I got in.
You started in 82. So we actually overlapped.
Oh, we did. No, I remember.
Yeah, we overlapped we overlapped for a year.
Yeah, in the book that I signed to you, I joke that my knowledge of you was the guy that fixed the Oxberry.
Yes.
The Oxberry.
I met a number. I became friends with a number of people because I was very adept at using the Oxberry camera.
Now, Dave, please explain to listeners what an Oxberry is.
Well, the Oxberry camera is an animation camera. It's an animation stand that is, it has a flat bed on it with a camera on a crane pointing down onto that bed. And that's where you would put your artwork.
Yeah, that's the old school.
The old style, the old school.
Nobody does anymore.
Yeah, no. I could probably still use that Oxbury camera, by the way.
Oh, you know it well.
Yeah, so.
I wonder where it is now. Word has it that I think they had two at CalArts that we were able to use. You know better. Maybe we didn't. But one of them, at least, I've heard shot many things, no less Dumbo. So those were, given to CalArts from the Disney studios, and we used them like crazy making student films.
Yeah, and those actually were from the 1930s.
Yeah.
So pretty crazy. So were you at CalArts for 3 years or 4?
I was one of the few that stayed all 4 years.
Yes.
There were, lots of people were like, because the animation renaissance was just beginning.
Yes.
Little Mermaid and so forth, Simpsons. And so a lot of students were leaving early, and I sort of felt bad. Like, cool, you get to, make money. But being at CalArts was great, because this is probably the only time anybody in animation gets to do their own thing, make their own films, to say their own thing. And I was passionate about making my own dorky student films. So I stayed all 4 years. I was thrilled to stay all of that time and make films.
You would have had instructors like Teehee.
Oh yeah, man.
Elmer Plummer for life drawing, Ken Anderson for layout.
I was not there for Ken, but I was there for Bill Moore.
Bill Moore for design.
Yeah.
Yes, we've had Gary Conrad was on the show, and we talked.
Probably, yeah. So Gary came in. What, a year before me?
Oh no, not Gary. I'm sorry, not Gary Conrad. Steve Moore. Steve Moore talked about Bill Moore quite a bit. So
back to those episodes.
And Jack Hanna was running the animation program, and Bob McRae was doing animation, and. So you had that whole crew.
And we were working out of, A113 before it became, an icon.
Yes, that's right. Before anybody knew what A113 was.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so our listeners know, A113 was an animation room that students had desks in that could work at those desks. And a little trivia fact is that A113 shows up someplace in every Pixar movie. I don't know if it's still the case.
Many other places, non-Pixar movies. I'm sure it's been on The Simpsons. I'm sure it's been on,
it's been everywhere.
Movies. It's been everywhere.
Yeah.
That little wink to the animators that,
came out of
filled out the industry later.
So you stayed for all 4 years. You graduated.
Yes.
And you then, what did you do?
Well, the first job I did was doing assistant animation for Brad Bird's Family Dog, which was a half-hour animated special that was part of Steven Spielberg's Amazing Stories anthology series. So that was all live action, stories, all within the half-hour time frame. But I think Brad sold Steven Spielberg on the idea of an animated episode. So his Family Dog was it, and that was my first job, and I was in heaven. I don't think I would wake, like the idea that I was actually making animation drawings that I could flip that were actually going to be used in a production was thrilling. I would wake up, get to my desk, and work all day from morning to night with breaks just long enough to get some food down and go to the bathroom. That was day after day after day. And they actually wondered why, I was a nerd. They wondered why I was like one of the top footage earners. They normally wouldn't have given, and that was just because I was such a dork about it. I was in heaven, so I was just constantly scribbling and drawing.
Where was the actual production done? Was it rented offices someplace?
That was a cement building on Traction Avenue in downtown Los Angeles. It was a very dangerous, sort of scary environment for us. it's been gentrified. It's like the arts district.
Okay.
So there's a lot of energy there, a lot of lofts. But back then it was,
A living hell. A living hell, right?
Kind of frightening. And our offices were just it was like a giant cement space. Like there's nothing pretty about it. Right. But everybody was happy to be there. It's so funny because once the animation renaissance came, it was all about like creating these beautiful spaces for people to work in. And yet happiness doesn't come necessarily from really pretty spaces. It comes from, the fact that you're with your tribe and you're doing something that you all love.
Yeah.
There's similar stories about the early days of Hyperion, and I totally get it.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I mean, the artists that were working at the Hyperion studio, which was sort of a ramshackle of buildings and people, makeshift desks and things like that. And when they all moved over in 1939 to the brand new Kem Weber designed animation facility in Burbank, there was some grumbling, and I think some folks think that was sort of the beginning of the end and led to the strike at the studio.
When you get big and successful, something of the energy and spirit of the place can drain away. Needless to say, our space creating Family Dog was not glamorous, and there wasn't a single person that wasn't in heaven. Mm-hmm. Like, who cares? Like, no AC, mosquitoes, whatever. It was grungy.
Well, let me ask you, how long did that production, how long were you on that production for?
Oh, not very long. And yet it's so funny because as a first job, you never forget it. A handful of months, I'm going to say 6 months, maybe.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went to Iowa and worked at a commercial animation house making commercials.
In Iowa?
In Iowa, of all places.
Like where in Iowa? Not in the cornfield,
Waterloo,
obviously.
Iowa.
Waterloo, Iowa.
That was a year or two, I forget. And I was making, cartoon commercials for, Lucky Charms and
Had you ever been to Iowa? Do you have family in Iowa? It was like, how did that come about?
Hire me.
Somebody reached out.
So I went with my colleague Clay Hall, who you may or may not know.
I know Clay. I know Clay.
So Clay and I were a package to go to this little commercial animation place, and we had a great time. There it was change your style with every commercial. It was a fun challenge. We knew that sort of whole process of animation. So we did it all, like, except for ink and paint. We would animate, we would storyboard, we would animate, we would clean up, and send it off to camera. So that was fun. And then after that, Simpsons was taking off. So I went and joined the crew on The Simpsons for 1 year. And after that first season, I was thinking I could leave there. This isn't going anywhere, this Simpsons thing. I know how to draw Bart Simpson now, and that's all that matters. So I skipped over to Fern Gully to work on my first feature film, which is what I wanted to do. And I remember me and a handful of people on The Simpsons going, what more stories can they tell after this season? I'm not joking. And of course, Simpsons is into its 4 billionth season.
But I don't know. Is it now 30 years?
It's ridiculous. Yeah,
it's got to be. It's got to be 30 years. It's funny. I have a book on the shelf that they put together for the first 500 episodes.
Yeah.
So and they've gone
you bought
beyond
that 25 years ago.
No, I think I got that like 15, 18 years ago, and that was ridiculous. 500 episodes.
Yeah. So had I stuck around, I probably would have had, a lucrative opening career, but I have no regrets. So Frankly was my first feature that we like to call, Avatar, before Avatar came out, because it really is the same story. And then it was just like a cluster F of hopping from job to job. There was the most fun I've had in animation was on Shrek at DreamWorks. That was me and a small story crew crunching out the story over 2 years while Jeffrey Katzenberg tried to figure out how they were going to make the film. And while he was distracted by other things, just had a great time making that. I would raise if someone said, Ken, Shrek is so ugly, I'd say, yeah, it's kind of an ugly movie, but that's not my fault. I think it's funny and clever, however, and it did well. So that was nice. And then I was at Nickelodeon for a handful of years working on directing on Fairly Odd Parents and
that's a great show.
Ren and Stimpy at Nickelodeon before that. That icky, snotty show that has...
I worked on that. Ken.
Yeah. Well, now I remember you coming in.
That's right. I would come in late afternoon, early evening to pick
I remember you visiting. Yeah.
Because I did all the sheets on that, the all the special effects.
Yes. I remember
calling out all the effects for that. Yeah.
And we had a handful.
I had a blast working on that, by the way.
No, and I did too.
Really
Most everybody had a blast on it. I think we were doing something unique and different. Unfortunately, we had a problematic leader.
Only for the first half of the first season.
And then I moved over to what we called games animation.
Yes.
John Kay was part of Spumco. And we kept riding that train until Nickelodeon recognized that was not a tone they wanted to define their brand new studio with.
Yeah, which is kind of a shame because I honestly think that Ren and Stimpy could have continued in the vein of The Simpsons. You could have run that for 20 years.
Yeah. But again, that was when Nickelodeon was trying to figure out who they were, and when push came to shove, they were like, we're not really that. So that show went bye-bye. You have to remember, Ren and Stimpy was on MTV for a good chunk of time too.
That's right.
Be more in line with the audience there. So that was fun. And and then I went to Pixar. That was great fun for 2 years.
What'd you work on at Pixar?
I worked on Up and Toy Story 3. And
two very good films.
Two very good films. They were both nominated for Best Picture.
Yes.
And they were also both nominated for, Best Animated Picture. They won both. But to have them nominated for Best Picture was really cool. That was really great that they were recognized not as animated films, but as actually films. And I remember walking into, Toy Story 3 with trepidation because I thought, what, 3? Do we really want to do a third one? But what they came up with was genius. And we all went into Toy Story 3 with the solid bedrock philosophy of this is the end. No more Toy Story movies after this. That is how it was planned. That is how all of the executives saw it. And there was absolutely no plan for it to continue in any way, shape, or form. So if you watch Toy Story 3, you'll see it as, it really does feel like the Godfather 3 of the trilogy, the Return of the King. And that is precisely as it was planned. But concurrently, the Disney company was buying Pixar.
Yes.
And though they made us feel like, yeah, you go ahead and work on your end part of the trilogy, but the moment Toy Story 3 came out, they were begging for more. And they didn't have to beg. They owned the company, so they demanded more. And I remember being at the premiere. It's a mixed blessing because we were all just so delighted with how it came out and kind of saddened by the fact that we had already known that the Disney company was demanding more.
Yeah.
So, and so you there's how many more since then? A couple more, and there's another one planned. But still very, very proud of Toy Story 3 and wish that was the end.
Would you work on another?
They would no, they wouldn't have me to begin with. I'm so happy where I am right now. No, I don't know. Not at this stage of my career, you know.
But let me ask you, after Pixar, what did you do?
So what did I do after Pixar? I think I went back to Nickelodeon for a while. Gosh, I need to look at my resume. A lot of little
Did you
projects.
ever come over to Disney Feature Animation?
I did work at Disney Feature Animation on an ill-fated project called Wildlife,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
which Roy Disney nixed for good reason,
Yeah.
because it just was not a Disney film.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was your feeling as you were working on it? Did you feel like this was not something that Disney should be doing, or?
God, if they were to really dig down, that's the thing of when you're like working. You want to put on a good face.
Of course, but I mean, we
probably deep down, throughout the entire project, I was like, I don't understand this project. I don't get the characters. I don't understand the world. I think there were some really good ideas, but it needed some strong leadership from the story side of things, which it never got. It never got the attention that it needed in that department. So there's a lot of flipping around of people, but no clear story vision with that one.
Right.
So I worked on that. It was fun to be at the studio and.
Yeah. And when that project was scrapped, what did you do? Did you leave?
Yeah, when it was scrapped, I went my own way. I probably went back to Nickelodeon then. Yeah.
So Nickelodeon was kind of an anchor for you.
Nickelodeon, well, they became an anchor because I went to Disney because I could. Fairly Odd Parents, which is a show that I was directing, was by all intents and purposes, was going. We weren't going to make any more. But then they decided to make some more just as I left Disney. So it was good timing for me to jump back. Yeah. So we did another season.
Are they still making that show? Or
no.
What'd they do? Make 100 episodes? I mean, I know a lot of these places.
They make many
do
seasons.
100 episodes, and then they're like, okay, that's all we need. We can put it in syndication.
They probably. I think when I left, the feeling was that they had made all that they wanted. But again, they changed their mind and decided to do another season. And who knows? Maybe they'll go back and add some more. I doubt Butch Hartman, who is the show's showrunner and creator, would have a problem with that. But for all intents and purposes, it's over. But yeah, I was lucky because when I left Disney, it was the easiest transition. Just drive over to Nickelodeon and there's my chair. So
now let me ask you this: you've won Emmy Awards.
Yes. So that was a weird.
So tell us how many and for what?
So 2, and they were. This is so crazy. Okay, I'm going to get in trouble here. So this was for 2 projects that Cartoon Network did. I never worked in-house at Cartoon Network, but they had freelance for me. So I picked up a freelance job on a show called Over the Garden Wall, and it was just a handful of months. God, it feels like it was only 3 or 4 months, like no time at all. And a few months down the line, it's like, oh, Ken, you're up for an Emmy. And I'm like, well, how? Why? How does this even work? They just, the show was up for an Emmy, and the powers that be decided to put my name on that list, which was a complete baffling surprise. In fact, it wasn't until the last moment where I think there was some event at the Academy where it's like, oh, Ken, are you going? And I'm like, wait, I didn't even okay, cool. The show is up for an Emmy, but I'm not getting one. Well, no, apparently I was. So that was a complete wackadoodle fluke. So Over the Garden Wall, which was, I think, 7 episodes. It's a perennial. It's beautifully made, sort of old school, 19th century children's book come to life. It's got a lot of fall imagery. So it shows up every Halloween. It's up there. But it is beautifully crafted. I forget the creator. I wish I could shout his name out because he was great. And And so I did do a lot of work on that. They had a very raw crew. So I have a feeling one of the reasons they put my name in the hat was because I was just fixing a lot of things.
So you were like sort of the seasoned guy on the crew?
Maybe. That being said, it is a beautiful show. And then the second Emmy I got, another freelance gig for Cartoon Network, just a few months for an episode of Adventure Time. It was nominated for an Emmy, and they put my name on that list too. So I don't. The first Emmy, I was like, this feels very awkward. This feels like a mistake. But by the second one, I'm like, okay, you have to look at it like a pat in the back for a long career, I guess.
All right, well,
I'll take it.
Now, did you go to the Emmys and pick it up and?
Nope.
Thank
Both
everybody?
of them, I did not.
They just mailed them to you.
Well, yes, I could have gone to the ceremony, but work-related functions where I'm constantly bumping into people that I should know and forgetting their names is such a huge bucket of awkward for me. So it was a win-win. Stay at home because if you lose, you don't have to deal with it. And stay at home because if you win, you win. So it was a win-win.
All right.
No tuxes. Now, had this happen again, I've had enough of people come and say, Ken, just go, for God's sake.
Yeah, you got to go once.
You got to go. And I remember the second Emmy, I went and picked it up at their offices, and this beautiful woman brought it down. She's like, Ken, you didn't go, but I'm going to do a dramatic entry down this curved stairwell to bring it to you. and as I left, she's like, Ken, next time, just go, as if there would be a next time. It is fun. You'll enjoy it. Just go.
That's great.
So it's great to have that.
So what did you do after those gigs? So you've really been sort of a nomad, going from project to project as opposed
that is
to
most of us though.
I mean that's the nature of the business, but I think during the Disney Renaissance, there was a lot of folks that worked at Disney for very long stretches of time.
Because they were successful and amazing. Yeah. But for a lot of us, I think for most of us, it is more common for us to, job hop.
It's a nomadic. It's a nomadic.
I think most of us are nomads. Yeah. And the upside of that is you get to meet a lot of interesting people on a lot of different projects. There's other projects that were hideous. Like God, I worked on Quest for Camelot, which is an awful movie. I worked for Ross Bagdasarian on Chipmunk Adventure, which was a dreadful thing. Who knows? Maybe there are fans. So it's been very nomadic, but the upside of that is, again, you get to meet lots of interesting people and work on lots of different types of projects and learn an awful lot. You don't get, you have to relearn the process with every new studio. And that's actually that flexes muscles in you that are really useful.
Absolutely. And did you, you're continuing to work on shows, right? I mean,
so I am currently, and I have a feeling this will be the last job I'll have before I just say, screw it, I'm going to go to the Bahamas and just pitch a tent under a tree. It's Family Guy. Family Guy, depending on your taste, you either love it or you hate it. I get it. But for me, I love the crew and I love the show. There have been so many projects I've worked on where you're called into a room to see a story pitch or a clip, and you have to smile and laugh and if you're not into it, fake it. I've done that so often. This one, I just don't have to fake it. I love that show makes me laugh. If that makes me out to be a frat boy. Maybe.
Well, it's a smartly written show. I mean, it's a very smartly written show.
It's very meta. It is definitely one of the few remaining shows that is, really taking a satirical look at culture. So it makes me laugh for whatever reason. Its humor is right down my alley, and I couldn't be more thrilled to be working on it.
Al John,
I love the show. I am such a big fan of Seth MacFarlane. Anything, anyway, and Family Guy is part of it. The Orville. I mean, all the stuff that he creates is great. American Dad is just so it's great. You can't take it too seriously, and nothing. It's no holds barred, and I think,
and especially in today's culture, that's not an easy thing to get away with.
no, certainly not. But when it comes to the musicals and the meta references, it's all there, and it's great that you've been there for such a long run of Family Guy, and I'm glad that you're enjoying the work, because I mean, you've had such a great body of work. I mean, Over the Garden Wall is a very pretty show, and Adventure Time is also a lot of fun. Those are very much in pop culture, in pop culture. But I think the cool thing is that as you go from project to project, you can see how pop culture has changed over the course of several years. And the one thing that does remain is being funny. I mean, you came back to Disney and actually worked on Phineas and Ferb.
Yes, I did. Yeah,
which is
Disney TV.
Once again, I mean, I think that's one of the best series Disney TV has done in a long time, just because once again, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think it's for all ages. I think if my kids can watch it and they'll love it, and then my wife and I will watch it and we'll go, "Wow, that's really clever."
Yeah. So it's working on two different wavelengths. However, Family Guy, not kid friendly.
Not so much.
No.
Be careful. Yeah.
What's it like?
How by the way, how involved is Seth MacFarlane in the show?
Not too involved. I think the team that he has created is self-running.
Yeah.
He does look at scripts, of course, and he will have notes, but he does do pretty much the majority of the voices, but he's pretty hands off now. I think he feels like the show has got its team, and he really likes, really feels that they're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
That they really know the show. And Family Guy just had a birthday. I think it's 25 years old now. I think it's quarter century old now.
And how many of those years have you worked on it?
Well, not that long. I started right before the pandemic. So what has it been, 4 years now? So I moved into an office, and 3 months later, we were all going home and working from home. And other than the writers, we're all continuing to work from home because we all love it.
Yeah.
Lacking the commute. It's
you were
delightful.
You implied that this is it.
Well,
when you're done with this, you're going to retire. I mean, come on, you're not that.
Well,
old.
No, I'll do other things. Who knows how? If Family Guy is very doable and it's very relaxing, and I actually really, really enjoy the work. The stress is zero. The people are great. So who knows? I might continue for as long as they need me. Who knows?
Is there a downtime throughout the year? Or in other words,
yes.
You work for 9 months and you're off for 3 before the next season starts?
It is it's about 1 month off for me.
Oh, that's not bad.
Which is not bad at all. Yeah.
No, that's very welcome, I would think.
And we're all perfectly fine with that month. Mine usually ends around right before Christmas. So around November, if all things line up. But yeah, great team, great show.
Do you find it kind of ironic, the fact that Family Guy is an adult comedy, sitcom, basically animated form, that is on Hulu, Fox, that is now Disney?
I don't really think about that.
Kind of ironic, isn't it?
All I know is they've been leaving us alone, thank God.
Yeah.
If they didn't, you'd probably hear about it.
Oh, for sure.
I think it would be a disaster if they started tinkering.
Yeah, I mean, Disney. There's a wall between say Disney, the Disney name, and
and Fox,
which they purchase.
Right.
So yeah, they're not getting involved.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, they're not really bothering us.
That's awesome.
There was a push from that came from Disney to get back to the studio, but our producers swatted that.
Good.
They're like, there's been no Yeah, we're still working from home. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn. Maybe I'm going to get in trouble. But no, we're all happy to be working from home, except for the writers. The writers are working in-house. So, and that's what
they have a writer's room.
Yeah, they have a writer's room, and they really do appreciate bouncing ideas off in person.
Yeah. So we're kind of bumping up against the end of this episode, but I want to tease everybody because while you've been doing all this fabulous work as a story artist, you have written a book. So let's tease this book, okay?
Let's tease this book?
Yeah. How long have you been working on it for?
Oh, Lord. Okay. Well, you know, us animation people, especially if we're animation people whose
Our super fans.
Our
super fans.
Our interests, coincide with the work of Walt Disney. It's very difficult not to be as equally in love with Walt's park, to be big Disneyland fans or Disney Parks fans, which I definitely was growing up and all throughout CalArts. Waddling around in that interest, long story short, and after a fortuitous meeting with a specific individual at Pixar, I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a book about the Tiki Room. / I'm going to write a book that I've always wanted to read and no one ever wrote. I'd wanted to read it my entire life and no one had ever written it. So eventually
you wrote
got to be a point where it's like, you know what? If no one's going to write the book, I guess the job belongs to me. And it was a huge job. And so after 10 years of research and 6 years of writing, the book finally has been released, and I couldn't be happier and more proud. The response has been just through the roof, and I'm so thrilled.
Okay, we've teased it, and I'm going to say thank you, Ken, for being on the Skull Rock podcast. We will see you next week, where we will reveal all.
Woo!
And that's our audience going nuts as always.
I love that audience.
All right, Ken, we'll see you next week.
I will be there. Thank you so much for having me.
This is producer, director, animator Bert Klein, and you're listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Your attention, please. Now loading on track number 1 for a trip around Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom.
Skull Rock Podcast.
All aboard.
Your Main Street to the world of Disney.
Wow. Once again, part 1 of our sit down with Ken Bruce, story artist. Man, he's been involved in so many great franchises, Dave, and I can't wait to hear more.
Oh, no, he's a terrific individual. I've known him for many, many years. He's a friend. I absolutely love his book, which we're going to be talking about next week. He's such a great guy. So I can't wait for next week's episode to drop.
Absolutely. Well, be sure to tune in for that. It's going to be an amazing episode. And man, oh man, we have so many great interviews in the can, and I can't wait for everybody to experience those as well. Hey, gang. Thank you for listening to the show. We appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our show everywhere you find your podcast, as well as our new YouTube page. Of course, you can find Dave and myself on LinkedIn as well. A quick plug. We're going to be giving away some of Dave's books, his new book. So be sure to click that link in our show notes. You'll go straight to the giveaway because, once again, we want to celebrate over 200 episodes of Skull Rock Podcast and our brand new YouTube channel where you can find all of the archived episodes. The book is called Find Your Happy Place, the 8-step guide to boosting your creativity through personal retreat. And you can get those books. We got 5 listeners that are going to be picking that up. So don't forget to click that link to win. And once again, you can find me on our other podcast as well, Dining at Disney. Myself, my wife, Kristen, we talk about Disney parks. Also, we're going to be doing a breakdown of D23 and food news for you. And then you can also follow me on Instagram at AlJohnGo for assorted music, guitar, and pop culture fun stuff. Dave?
Well, Aljon, there's just so much to unpack here because, in February, we mentioned this last week. In February, we're going to be coming to Nashville for the Animation Y'all Expo.
Yeah.
All right. So if you go to animationyall.com, you'll find out all the information you need to find about that February in Nashville. That's going to be a huge event, I think.
Yeah, February 21st
and we're looking forward to it.
21st through 23rd.
February 21st to the 23rd at Lipscomb University.
That's right.
In Nashville.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to be the first time Aljon and I, and I'm going to continue to say it's the first time Aljon and I are actually going to be together for an extended period of time.
It's going to be amazing. I told Kristen about it, and her mouth was like, "What? You mean Dave's actually coming here?" I said, "Yeah,
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it." By the way, my Tunes Behind the Tunes show on Sirius XM Disney Hits channel 133, August show, we spotlight Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas. Ooh. That's playing on Sirius XM. As you mentioned, Aljon, my new book, Find Your Happy Place, the 8-Step Guide to Boosting Your Creativity Through a Personal Retreat, is available. Author signed copies are available at theoldmillpress.com. Also, by the way, I want to mention Steve Anderson, who's been a guest on our show. Steve Anderson's new book, Disney In Between, The Lost Years, 1966 to 1986. That's available at theoldmillpress.com as well. Yes. Those are both of those books are author signed at theoldmillpress.com. And of course, you can always go to davidbossert.com. With that, Aljon, I will say, go out. It's the dog days of summer. Go out and have a fantastic week. Be kind to one another and enjoy these last weeks of the summer. And we'll see you back here next Monday, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.